What if I told you that the Great Flood was not merely a natural disaster, but a strategic divine execution designed to exterminate a race of monsters that history tried to forget? Long before the first drop of rain fell, the earth was already drowning in the blood of the innocent, ruled by the Nephilim, colossal hybrids born of the forbidden union between fallen angels and human women, who feasted on flesh and challenged the very throne of God with dark sorcery and iron weapons. This is not the gentle story of the Ark you were taught. This is the terrifying, untold chronicle of the Watchers, a cosmic war that shook the pillars of creation and the desperate cry of a planet standing on the brink of total apocalypse. As we unlock these sealed ancient scrolls to reveal the secrets of the antediluvian world, make sure to secure your place in this journey by hitting that subscribe button, smashing the like, and sharing this video with fellow truth seekers. Welcome to Guardians of the Covenant, where we unveil the history that heaven witnessed and earth feared. For the silence is over and the judgment is about to begin. History is often presented to us as a series of dry dates and dusty artifacts. But what if I told you that the true history of our world is written in blood, fire, and the forbidden longings of beings who were never meant to walk among us? Before the great waters cleansed the earth, there was an era erased from memory, a time when the boundary between the divine and the mortal was shattered by a choice that would doom a civilization. And today, as we stand on the precipice of rediscovering these ancient truths, I invite you to join us on this journey by subscribing to Guardians of the Covenant. For here, we do not just read history, we relive the moments that shaped the destiny of our souls. Long before the first king claimed a crown or the first kingdom drew a border, the universe existed in a state of absolute, breathtaking silence, a stillness so profound that it was not merely the absence of sound, but the presence of peace, where the only rhythm was the breath of newborn creation, and the cosmos was a vast, golden expanse of potential waiting to be realized. From the chaotic void, darkness was torn apart by sparks of divine light, revealing the blue planet, Earth, emerging like a jewel bathed in rivers of living silver and seas of crystal, a world that was a living song of perfection where nature and spirit danced in harmony. From the throne of eternity, a voice that carried the weight of thunder and the gentleness of a morning breeze commanded life to spring forth. And so man was formed, walking across the pristine plains with a heart that knew no sin, no fear and no shame, existing in a paradise that seemed eternal. Yet the stars above were not just distant lights. They were eyes. For the Watchers, thousands of luminous angelic beings gazed down from the heavens, tasked with observing this new creation. But observation slowly turned into fascination, and fascination ripened into a dangerous, impossible desire. Among these celestial observers, the daughters of men stood out with a beauty that was raw, vibrant and warm, a stark contrast to the cold, eternal perfection of the angels, and a sparkle of envy and longing began to ignite in the eyes of those who were sworn to be impartial guardians. At the center of this cosmic unrest was Samyaza, an angel of high rank, known for his wisdom but plagued by a restless heart that yearned for experiences forbidden to his kind. And it was he who orchestrated the beginning of the end. On the windswept peaks of Mount Hermon, under a night sky where the moon cast long, doubtful shadows over their glowing faces, Samyaza gathered 200 of his brethren, the wind roaring between the cliffs as if nature itself was trying to warn them of the transgression to come. With a voice that trembled between authority and desperation, Samyaza spoke, "Brothers, do you see what lies below us? The daughters of men are not just flesh. Life pulses within them with the very spark of the Creator, a warmth we watch but do not feel. And I wish to know them, to bridge the gap between the infinite and the finite." A murmur of fear and hesitation ran through the group, for to leave their station was to challenge the will of the Almighty, and an angel named Zahel, his expression fiery with the terror of disobedience, asked, "Do you wish to challenge the Most High?" To which Samyaza replied with a tragic softness, "I do not wish for evil, but to understand the love that was denied to us. If we go down, we will know what it is to be flesh, and perhaps in that vulnerability we will finally understand the human heart." The silence that followed was heavy with destiny until, one by one, driven by a curiosity stronger than their fear of judgment, the angels reached out their hands, forming a circle of light that trembled against the darkness, swearing a pact of blood and spirit never to return to the sky until they had fulfilled the desires of their hearts. The moment the decision was sealed, Mount Hermon shook to its foundations. The wind howled like a wounded beast, and from the heavens, streaks of fire cut through the atmosphere as 200 angels fell like burning stars, abandoning their glory to crash into the physical realm, tearing through the clouds and the horizon itself. When they touched the ground, the transformation was instant and jarring. They took on human forms, but they were not men, for they possessed statures of intimidating height, eyes that burned with the residual fire of the stars, and faces that commanded the authority of kings, causing the very ground to tremble beneath their heavy, materialized feet. The daughters of men, innocent and unsuspecting, saw them and were struck with amazement, for no mortal man possessed such terrifying beauty or such magnetic power, and as the watchers approached, the line between reverence and romance blurred. They took wives for themselves, not out of love, but out of possession, and in exchange for this forbidden intimacy, they began to teach humanity the secrets of the heavens that were meant to remain hidden. They planted lush gardens that defied nature, built towers that scraped the sky, and erected golden altars where the worship of the Creator was replaced by the worship of the creature. But the true horror of this union was yet to be born, for the biological and spiritual incompatibility between the divine and the human gave rise to the Nephilim, children who were not children at all, but monstrosities who grew with unnatural speed, their eyes glowing with a predatory light and their bodies possessing strength that could crush stone. In a terrifyingly short time, these hybrid offspring became giants, towering over the forests and the cities, and the earth began to groan under the sheer physical and spiritual weight of their existence. The Nephilim were driven by an endless, consuming hunger. They hunted every beast of the field, dominated the herds, and when the land could no longer sustain their gluttony, they turned their voracious eyes toward the humans who had once welcomed their fathers. Men, unable to resist these demigods, began to worship them out of fear, bowing down to the architects of their own destruction. Samyaza, now dressed in the finest linen garments and crowned with stones that mimicked the stars he had abandoned, looked out over his kingdom with a mix of pride and creeping dread, declaring, "We have created something great. The sky fears us and the earth reveres us." But Azazel, standing by his side with a somber shadow over his face, whispered the truth that Samyaza refused to admit. "What have we created, brother? It might be our downfall, for they know no limits, and their hunger is endless." His words were prophetic, for the Nephilim, having consumed the labor of man, turned against humanity itself, and soon blood began to run through the valleys like water, and the mountains echoed not with songs of joy, but with the cries of despair, as the scent of blooming flowers was replaced by the metallic stench of iron and death. The sky, once a witness to their glory, now darkened in rejection, and thunder began to sound in the distance, not as a natural phenomenon, but as the voice of an angry cosmos. From the heights, a light pierced the heavy clouds, settling over the mountain where the pact had been made, and an invisible, powerful voice echoed through the marrow of every living thing. "The earth groans under the weight of your corruption. The spirit of man will not remain forever." Samyaza looked up, and for a fleeting, agonizing moment, he saw the reflection of his ancient wings burning in the distance, a reminder of what he had lost. But the wind brought only the cold, silent answer of judgment, a foreshadowing of the storm that would soon wash away history. The days that followed were a surreal nightmare of glory and horror intertwined as the Nephilim grew to impossible heights, their voices booming like thunder and their eyes shining like embers of hell, shaking the ground with every step, while human cities bowed in servitude, offering tributes and erecting altars to appease their tormentors. The fallen angels, enchanted by the power of their monstrous children, continued to corrupt the world further. Azazel revealed the secrets of metallurgy, teaching men to forge iron and bronze into swords, shields, and spears, transforming the innocent tools of agriculture into the weapons of war, while others taught spells, the toxicity of herbs, and the manipulation of shadows, spreading a forbidden wisdom that poisoned the human soul. Samyaza, standing atop a newly built temple, watched the horizon fill with fire and dust, witnessing the civilization of men blossoming with knowledge, yet decaying with morality. And when he commanded Azazel to show them the knowledge of the gods, Azazel replied with a hardened heart, "I am showing them destruction." The reality was undeniable. Brothers were killing brothers, kings were devouring kingdoms, and the children of the Watchers were drinking the blood of the innocent, while rivers of wine and blasphemous songs flowed under the reddish light of a dying dusk. The Nephilim erected monuments of black stone engraved with symbols of the firmament, columns that rose to touch the clouds with tops burning with eternal flames, and the tallest among them was Og, the son of Samyaza, a being of colossal stature with eyes as bright as the setting sun, wearing animal skins and a crown of bones, his voice resonating like 1,000 war drums as he proclaimed, "Men are weak. We were born to rule, for the blood of angels flows in our veins, and the world belongs to us." The crowd applauded with wild, fearful cheers, while the Watchers looked on in silence, trapped between pride and a crushing guilt as time passed, and the hunger of the giants grew so desperate that they consumed everything, destroying entire villages and staining the rivers red with human life. Women wept, the skies turned permanently grey, and the sunlight seemed to flee from the earth in shame, while idols of the fallen, figures with broken wings and golden eyes, were erected in every city, and men, in their terror, began to sacrifice their own children to appease these false gods. Finally, one night under the pale, accusing light of the moon, Samyaza climbed the mountain once again, the wind slicing through him like blades of judgment, and he knelt, raising his eyes to the heaven he could no longer reach, whispering, "Sir, if you still hear our voices, forgive us. We were not seeking evil, just to understand." But there was no response, no comfort, only the distant rolling thunder, an echo of contained anger that signaled the silence of God was not an absence, but the terrifying calm before the ultimate end. There is a moment in every tragedy where the music stops, the laughter dies, and the weight of consequence comes crashing down like a collapsing star. And it was in this terrifying silence that Azazel approached his brother Samyaza, his eyes burning, not with the fire of rebellion, but with the cold clarity of the end, whispering that when the heavens go silent, the punishment has already begun. But before we witness the divine verdict that changed the cosmos forever, I invite you to secure your place in this unfolding history by subscribing to Guardians of the Covenant, for here we uncover the truths that time tried to bury. So please like and share this video to help keep the light of knowledge burning. As Azazel spoke those chilling words, the horizon itself seemed to agree, trembling violently as if the earth was recoiling from the touch of its oppressors, while unnatural lightning crossed the skies without the sound of thunder, a silent warning that cut through the clouds like fissures in a broken glass. And then, an invisible voice thundered, not from the mountains, but from the very air they breathed, declaring that the earth was corrupted before his face, that man had strayed into darkness, and that the sons of heaven had desecrated the sacred ground, signaling that judgment was no longer a possibility, but an inevitability. In the days that followed this proclamation, the world was filled with omens that defied explanation. The stars, once the trusted guides of navigators, lost their shine and seemed to retreat into the velvet blackness of space, while unusual, biting winds swept across the fields, carrying the scent of ozone and ancient dust, and the sea roared against the shores with a violence that suggested the waters themselves were preparing for war. The Nephilim, those colossal monuments of flesh and pride, felt a restlessness they could not name, looking up with eyes that had never known fear, sensing a power approaching that their physical strength could not bend or break. Yet Og, the most arrogant of them all, shouted to the darkening sky, "Let the storms come. No god will destroy the blood of the giants." His voice booming like a challenge to the Almighty, unaware that his defiance was merely the buzzing of a fly against a coming hurricane. Far from this noise, in the desolate quiet of the mountains, a righteous man named Enoch stood up in prayer, a solitary figure of faith in a landscape of ruin, walking alone through devastated fields where the soil was stained and the crops were dead. His eyes turned upward, seeking answers in a sky that was silently beginning to move like a shifting mechanism of divine clockwork. The earth groaned beneath his feet. The ground cracked as if in pain. The rivers turned a sickly red, and the air carried the heavy, suffocating weight of guilt, while the voices of the innocents, those trampled by the giants, rose to the sky not as sound, but as a spiritual echo of suffering that pierced the heart of creation. There was no song left in the world, no laughter, only the distant, haunting sound of human weeping blending with the roar of the Nephilim at their profane feasts, unaware that their banquet was their last supper. The mountains witnessed the horror, standing as silent jurors, while the sky, once clear and blue, was now choked with black clouds that looked like ashes rising from the abyss. Yet high above this layer of gloom, in the realm of unapproachable light, the throne of the Most High shone with flashes of purity that no mortal eye could endure, surrounded by countless angels bowing in a silence so absolute it felt louder than any scream, all awaiting the voice that governs reality. Suddenly, a bright light cut through the firmament, shattering the darkness, and a thunder shook the pillars of paradise as the Creator spoke, declaring that the corruption of the earth had reached its limit, that the children of angels had become demons on the dust, and that the time for observation was over. Archangel Michael, the warrior prince of heaven, bowed low, his armor of light reflecting the glow of the throne, asking, "Sir, do you want us to eliminate the evil born from disobedience?" And the answer came like a burning wind, swift and final. "The time of mercy has passed. Let the messengers prepare." The command was given, and the four great archangels, Raphael, Gabriel, Uriel, and Michael, stepped forward to purify the earth, each receiving a specific, terrible burden. Raphael was to capture Azazel, the architect of forbidden weaponry, and cast him into darkness. Gabriel was charged with turning the Nephilim against each other to destroy the bastard race. Michael would face Samyaza and the fallen kings, and Uriel was sent to the one man chosen to be the spokesperson of the divine will, Enoch, son of Jared. As the gears of judgment turned in the heavens, Enoch slept under the fitful light of a solitary dying star, dreaming of rivers of fire descending from the mountains and wings falling, burned and broken over the fields, waking up in a cold sweat with his heart racing against his ribs. Before he could catch his breath, the darkness of his shelter was obliterated by a golden radiance as Uriel descended, bathed in a light that did not cast shadows but consumed them, causing Enoch to bow tremblingly and ask, "Who are you, Lord?" To which the angel replied, "I am Uriel, sent by the Almighty. Have you seen what the world has become? The blood cries to the sky, so rise up, for you will be a messenger between man and the eternal." Enoch raised his eyes and saw through the angel's vision the cities in the distance covered in smoke, heard the children crying, and saw giants walking among ruins where evil had become the only law. And he asked with genuine humility, "How could I, a mere man, speak to those who no longer hear the voice of reason?" To which Uriel answered, "Because your faith is your sword, and your heart is the echo of God's will." In an instant, the laws of physics bent, and Enoch was taken by the light, transported from the dust of earth to the splendors of the skies, where abysses of fire and mountains of crystal stretched into infinity, and he saw the thrones of the angels and the places prepared for judgment, the air vibrating with voices chanting the name of the Creator. In the center of this glory, a huge angel approached, Michael, the commander of the hosts, who told him, "Enoch, the Most High grants you the vision of destinies. You will carry his word to those who have fallen. You will go to Mount Hermon and tell the watchers that there will be no forgiveness, that their children will perish, and they themselves will be chained in the depths until the day of the final judgment." Enoch bowed his head, filled with a human fear of the supernatural, asking, "What if they don't listen to me?" And Michael replied with chilling certainty, "Then the heavens will speak." Back on earth, Enoch walked the long, lonely path to the mountain where the rebellion began, and as he approached, the clouds parted with thunder, and the watchers, stripped of their former glory, saw him coming. Samyaza, recognizing the man of God from afar, descended to meet him, surrounded not by the majesty of old, but by a pale light of regret, pleading, "Man of God, pray for us. We were foolish. Our children destroyed what we swore to protect. Ask the Almighty to forgive us." Enoch looked at the fallen angel with deep compassion, seeing the tragedy of a being who traded eternity for a moment of desire, but his voice remained firm as he delivered the verdict. "There is no more intercession. Heaven has declared your end. The abyss will be your resting place, and your children will know the sword of judgment." The cry of the angels echoed through the valleys, a sound of pure despair that the wind carried to the plains. And as night fell, shooting stars, omens of destruction, crossed the sky, leading Samyaza to whisper, "So what we love will be the seed of our downfall," a realization that came too late to save them. Enoch walked away slowly, illuminated only by the moonlight, leaving the fallen to their fate, while in the distance the roar of the Nephilim could still be heard, celebrating a victory that was already lost. The dawn rose quietly over a weary land, the wind carrying the metallic smell of smoke and iron, and Enoch walked alone through the valleys, feeling the crushing weight of his mission, his bare feet touching ground stained with the blood of the innocent, realizing that the world, once a garden, had become a graveyard of dreams. Amid the desolation, the sky opened up again, and a voice called his name. "Enoch, climb higher, for I will show you what is hidden from the eyes of men." And a whirlwind of light enveloped him, lifting him through the clouds until the ground vanished and places beyond comprehension were revealed. Mountains made of pure crystal, rivers shining like liquid fire, and angels of indescribable size with faces covered in glory. At the center of everything, a throne surrounded by light that could not be looked at directly, sat the Almighty. His voice the sound of 1,000 waters, and each word made Enoch's heart tremble. "Did you see what the sons of heaven did on earth? They brought forbidden wisdom, spilled blood, and corrupted the flesh. Judgment is set." Behind him, the archangels approached. Michael with a flaming sword, Raphael with a serene expression and eyes of fire, Gabriel with wings like molten gold, and Uriel, bearer of the stars. And Enoch bowed face to the ground, whispering, "Lord, your justice is perfect. What shall I do, dust and ashes, in the face of such great wrath?" To which the Lord replied, "You will be my voice. You will bring the fallen their final sentence." The human was enveloped by a cloud and taken to a prison of darkness, a place of deep abysses and rivers of fire winding between black mountains, where the watchers waited, chained, with blank eyes and faces filled with shame. Samyaza lifted his head when he saw him and begged, "Enoch, intercede one last time. Beg for the forgiveness we lost." But Enoch replied with a heavy heart, "I pleaded for you before the throne, but your plea was not accepted. The Most High commanded that you shall never rise again. Your place will be the abyss until the day the eternal flame consumes you." Upon hearing this, Samyaza wept, and his tears sounded like thunder rolling through the caverns of the underworld, crying out, "Let our children be destroyed as well. May the name of the giants disappear forever." His voice lost among the rocks as lightning crossed the underground sky and the chains tightened, binding them to the darkness they had chosen, while the cry of the fallen angels echoed through the heavenly realms, marking the end of the age of the Watchers. The cry of the fallen angels faded into the jagged rocks of the abyss, leaving Enoch alone in the firmament to contemplate the terrible fate of the Nephilim. And in his visions, he saw the future unraveling like a tapestry of fire where armies of giants fought each other in blind rage. Cities burned, and the seas themselves seemed to die under the weight of blood, causing a tear to fall from his eye as he witnessed the world the Creator loved turning into absolute ruin. But even in the darkest night, the dawn of a promise was breaking, for Raphael approached him, placing a hand of comfort on his shoulder and whispering that while the burden is great, there is still one righteous man left on earth whom the Most High has chosen to build a new era when the waters eventually cover the mountains. Who is he? Enoch asked with a voice trembling with hope, and the name Noah hung in the air like a prophecy, causing the light around Enoch to pulse as time stood still, and the voice of the Creator commanded him to return to earth one last time to warn the people that judgment comes with waters no giant can withstand, but that a refuge in the heights would be provided for those who kept the faith. The vision faded, and Enoch found himself back in the fields as the sun set on the horizon, painting the world in blood-red hues, while the distant drums and blasphemous shouts of the Nephilim echoed like a funeral march for humanity. He climbed to the top of a hill, the wind blowing hard against his face as lightning streaked across the sky, and raised his voice in a final, desperate plea, shouting, "Repent, O men, for the waters will come and take away pride and blood." But his words were swallowed by the wind, heard by no one but the thunder which roared in confirmation. Then the world began to shake with a deep guttural roar from the depths. Clouds spun like whirlwinds of fire, and a curtain of divine light descended over the valleys as the angels of judgment arrived. Enoch, the righteous messenger, closed his eyes and was enveloped in brightness, his body ascending to the eternal realm, leaving the earth behind and sealing his name forever among those who walked with God. The skies then ripped open, beams of light crossing the clouds as Michael descended like a blazing star, followed by Gabriel and Raphael leading legions of light against the darkness rising from the earth. The Nephilim, those giants born of corruption, rose to challenge heaven, with Og, the greatest of them all, raising his iron spear and shouting defiance. But the ground split beneath their steps as swords of light clashed with spears of sin, creating a deafening sound that echoed like the collapse of creation itself. Michael, invoking the name of the Almighty, struck down giants in flames, while Gabriel led the hosts through the firestorm, and Raphael descended into the depths to bind Azazel in chains of fire, sealing him in the abyss with glowing stones. From above, Samyaza watched the destruction with sorrow until Michael appeared before him, declaring, "You were the first to fall and the last to understand," before casting him into the same darkness, ending the age of rebellion forever. A profound silence covered the land as heavy clouds formed, signaling the prelude to the final judgment, and Raphael announced that the land, once washed in blood, would now be cleansed by water. The divine gaze turned to Noah, who, amidst the mockery of men, raised the planks of the ark, guided only by the voice in his heart. And as animals arrived, two by two, the floodgates of heaven opened, and the fountains of the deep burst forth, engulfing the world in an unstoppable tide. On the highest peaks, Giants like Og tried to resist, shouting against the sky until they were swallowed by colossal waves, while humanity cried in vain at the closed doors of the ark, and Noah wept, whispering, "Lord, have mercy," to which the voice replied, "The earth must be cleansed." For 40 days and nights, the flood covered everything, dissolving cities and erasing corruption until only silence remained. The pale sun eventually illuminated an endless ocean where the ark floated as a speck of life. Noah released a dove, and when she returned with a green olive branch, he knew that hope had survived. And as the waters receded and the ark rested on the mountains of Ararat, Noah built an altar to the Lord. A divine light descended, and the first rainbow appeared on the horizon, a bridge of colors promising that never again would the waters destroy all flesh, marking the beginning of a new covenant between God and man. If this journey through the hidden history of the world has touched your spirit and opened your eyes to the mysteries of the past, please subscribe to Guardians of the Covenant, like this video, and share it with others so that together we can continue to explore the ancient truths that shape our faith today.